Daniel Cole brought his old freighter into the docking bay of Starbase Meridian. The ship made a bad sound as it landed. He knew he needed to fix the engine soon, but he did not have enough money. He had been flying cargo runs on the Outer Rim for 6 years now, and every year his ship got older and his bank account got emptier. He shut down the systems and sat in the pilot chair for a moment. Through the dirty window, he could see other ships in the station. Newer ships. Better ships. Ships owned by people who had made better choices than him. Daniel was 32 years old. He had brown hair that he cut himself and a face that looked tired. He used to be a soldier in the Earth military, but that was a long time ago. Now he was just a man who moved boxes from one place to another across the stars. He grabbed his jacket and walked to the airlock. When the door opened, he stopped. Lisa Warren was standing there. She looked exactly the same as she had 5 years ago. Short blonde hair, sharp eyes, the uniform of an Earth diplomatic officer. They had served together in the military before she went into government work and he went into hauling cargo. "Lisa," he said, "what are you doing here?" "Hello, Daniel. I need to talk to you. If this is about the Centauri job, I already told your people I am not interested in military contracts anymore. It is not about the Centauri job." She looked around the docking bay. "Can we talk somewhere private?" Daniel thought about saying no. Lisa only showed up when she needed something, and whatever she needed was usually dangerous. But she had saved his life twice during the war, and he still owed her for that. "Fine," he said. "There is a bar on level 3. I need a drink anyway." They walked through the station together. Starbase Meridian was a busy place. Humans, Corinth, Valani, and a dozen other species moved through the corridors. Daniel kept his head down and his hands in his pockets. Lisa walked like she owned the place. The bar was small and dark. They found a table in the corner, away from the other customers. Daniel ordered a whiskey. Lisa ordered water. "So," Daniel said, "what is this about?" Lisa put her hands flat on the table. "I need you to pretend to be married to a princess." Daniel laughed. He thought she was joking, but her face did not change. "You are serious," he said. "Very serious. Okay, explain." Lisa took a deep breath. "You know about the Corinth Empire?" Everyone knew about the Corinth Empire. They controlled 12 star systems and had one of the strongest militaries in the galaxy. They were tall, blue-skinned, and they thought humans were barely worth noticing. The peace treaty between Earth and the Corinth had taken 20 years to negotiate. "I know about them," Daniel said. "There is a summit happening in 3 days. All the major powers will be there. The Corinth, humans, the Valani, the merchant guilds. We are going to finalize the trade agreement that will open Corinth space to human ships." Sounds important. It is. It is. But there is a problem. Lisa leaned forward. Princess Violara of the Corinth is supposed to lead their delegation. She is the third daughter of Emperor Malloys. Very smart. Very powerful. But Corinth law says that royal women cannot participate in formal negotiations without a bonded partner at their side. Daniel frowned. "A bonded partner? You mean a husband?" "Something like that. The Corinth do not marry for love. They form political bonds for power and family connections. Princess Velara was bonded to a Corinth noble named Lord Theron. But 3 days ago, Lord Theron was assassinated. That is unfortunate. It is worse than unfortunate. Without a bonded partner, Velara cannot attend the summit. If she does not attend, the Corinth will send a different delegation. And the replacement delegation does not want the trade agreement. They want war with humans instead." Daniel finished his whiskey. "I still do not understand what this has to do with me. The Corinth have made an unusual request. They asked for a human volunteer to serve as Velara's temporary bonded partner for the summit." Daniel stared at her. "A human? They hate humans. That is exactly why they want one. Lisa's voice was cold and practical. Humans are considered so far beneath Corinth nobility that no one will see a human partner as a threat. No political families will be offended. No alliances will be complicated. You would be a placeholder, a piece of furniture that happens to breathe. You want me to be furniture. I want you to sit next to a princess for 5 days, say nothing, do nothing, and help prevent a war. Daniel shook his head. This was insane. He was a cargo pilot. He had grease on his boots and patches on his jacket. He did not belong anywhere near a princess or a diplomatic summit. Why me? He asked. You must have professional diplomats who can do this. The Corinth specified certain requirements. They want someone with no political connections. Someone who cannot possibly be mistaken for a real partner. Someone who is... She paused. Forgettable. Forgettable, Daniel repeated. Thanks. It is not an insult. It is what makes you perfect for this job. And what do I get out of it? Lisa reached into her pocket and took out a small data chip. She slid it across the table. Daniel picked it up and looked at the number on the screen. His eyes went wide. That is a lot of zeros, he said. Enough to buy a new ship. Enough to retire from the rim routes and live comfortably for a long time. Daniel thought about his old freighter with its broken engine. He thought about the cold nights in deep space, alone with nothing but cargo containers and silence. He thought about how tired he was of scraping by, year after year, never getting ahead. What exactly would I have to do? He asked. You would fly to the Concorde Ring Station tomorrow. You would be dressed in Corinth formal clothes. You would sit next to Princess Velara during all official meetings. You would speak only when spoken to, and even then, only specific phrases that we will teach you. You would not make extended eye contact. You would not smile, because the Corinth consider that aggressive. You would exist without drawing attention. For 5 days. For 5 days. Daniel looked at the data chip again. He looked at Lisa. He thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. Then he thought about the money. Fine, he said. I will do it. Lisa smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just solved a problem. Good. A transport will pick you up from your ship in 6 hours. Do not be late. She stood up and walked out of the bar without looking back. Daniel sat alone at the table, holding the data chip in his hand. He had just agreed to pretend to be married to an alien princess. He was going to be furniture at a diplomatic summit that could prevent a war. He ordered another whiskey. This is going to be a disaster, he said to himself. He had no idea how right he was. The assassination attempt changed everything at the summit. News spread quickly. By morning, everyone knew that the human pretending to be Princess Velara's bonded partner had killed 2 assassins with his bare hands. Suddenly, Daniel was not invisible anymore. When he walked through the corridors, people stared. Corinth nobles whispered behind their hands. Human diplomats gave him respectful nods. The Villani delegates studied him with their 4 eyes, like he was a puzzle they wanted to solve. Daniel hated it. Commander Zeth was the worst. He was a Corinth military officer, tall and scarred, with eyes that held no warmth at all. He arrived at Daniel's room 3 hours after the attack and interrogated him for 6 hours straight. Tell me again how you knew the assassins were coming, Zeth demanded. I did not know. I heard a noise and I responded. You expect me to believe a cargo pilot could defeat 3 trained killers? I was not always a cargo pilot. I served in the Earth military for 8 years. Zeth leaned forward. His silver eyes were cold. Perhaps the attack was staged. Perhaps you arranged it yourself to gain the princess's trust. Daniel felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. If I wanted to gain her trust, I would have chosen a method that did not almost get me killed. The interrogation continued. Zeth asked the same questions over and over, looking for lies or contradictions. Daniel answered the same way every time. Eventually, Zeth had to let him go. There was no evidence of any plot, because there was no plot. But Daniel knew that Zeth would be watching him from now on. The real change came from Velara, on the morning after the attack. She summoned Daniel to her chambers. He expected more coldness, more reminders that he was just furniture. Instead, he found her sitting by the window, staring out at the stars. "Close the door," she said. Daniel closed it. He stood by the entrance, waiting for instructions. "Sit down," Velara said. She pointed to a chair near her. Daniel sat. This was new. Before, he had never been invited to sit in her presence unless it was at official meetings. For a long moment, the princess did not speak. She just looked at him with those strange frozen eyes. Daniel did not look away. He was tired of pretending to be less than he was. "Why did you save me?" she asked finally. Daniel thought about the question. It was instinct. "I heard danger, and I moved toward it. Most creatures move away from danger. That is what survival requires. Humans are different, I guess." "Yes." Velara tilted her head slightly. "You are different. I have been watching your species for years. I thought I understood you. Small, weak, short-lived, emotional. But you—" She paused. "You confuse me. I am sorry. Do not apologize. It is not unpleasant to be confused. It is rare." She looked back at the stars. The Corinth lived for 300 years. We have time to learn everything we need to know. We become very certain of things. Certainty is comfortable, but sometimes wrong, Daniel said. Velara turned back to him. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or interest. "Yes," she said slowly. "Sometimes wrong." After that, things were different between them. Velara still spoke to Daniel like he was beneath her during public meetings. Protocol demanded it. But in private, she began to treat him like a person instead of furniture. She asked him questions. Not orders or demands, but real questions. She wanted to know about Earth. What did the sky look like? What did the ocean smell like? Were the forests really as green as the pictures showed? Daniel told her about Montana, where he grew up. He told her about the big sky that stretched forever in every direction. He told her about the mountains covered in snow and the rivers full of fish. He told her about camping with his father when he was young, lying in a sleeping bag and watching shooting stars. "You loved your world," Velara said. "I still do. I just could not stay there." "Why not?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. This was not something he talked about. But something about Velara made him want to answer. "I was angry when I was young," he said. "Angry at everything. My father died when I was 15. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep us alive. I felt like the universe had cheated me. So the first joined the military as soon as I could. I wanted to fight something. Anyone. And did fighting help? For a while. Then the war ended, and I did not know who I was anymore. I could not go back to being a normal person. So I bought a ship and started flying cargo. Out in space, I did not have to be anyone." Velara listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "I understand," she said finally. "You do? I have never been allowed to be anyone either. From the moment I was born, I was a princess. Every word I speak, every step I take, every thought I have is supposed to serve the Empire. I am not a person. I am a function." Daniel looked at her. For the first time, he did not see a cold alien princess. He saw someone who was just as lonely as he was. "That sounds terrible," he said. "It is what it is. I accepted it long ago." But her voice wavered slightly, and Daniel knew that was not completely true. The days passed. The summit continued. Daniel sat beside Valara at meetings and watched her work. She was brilliant. She argued for the trade agreement with logic that nobody could counter. She found compromises that satisfied enemies. She built alliances with careful words and strategic silences. But Daniel also noticed the attacks against her. Other Corinth nobles from opposing factions made subtle insults. They questioned her judgment. They reminded everyone that she was unmarried, that her bonded partner had been murdered, that she was politically weak. Valara never showed that the words hurt her. But Daniel saw the way she gripped the edge of the table when certain nobles spoke. He saw the exhaustion in her eyes when the meetings ended. One evening, after a particularly difficult session, Daniel found Valara standing alone on a balcony overlooking the stars. She did not turn when he approached. "You should not be here," she said. "Protocol says you stay in your room when we are not in official meetings. I do not care about protocol right now." Valara turned. Her eyes were wet. Not quite crying, but close. "Why do you care?" she asked. "You are being paid to be here. Once the summit ends, you will take your money and leave. I am nothing to you." Daniel stepped closer. "Is that what you think?" "It is what I know. Everyone leaves. Everyone wants something from me. Power, influence, connections. Nobody stays just because they want to." Daniel thought about his empty ship. He thought about the cold nights in deep space. He thought about how long it had been since anyone had really talked to him. "I know what it feels like to be alone," he said quietly. "I know what it feels like when everyone sees you as a thing instead of a person. You are not a thing to me, Valara. You are the first person who has made me feel real in a very long time." Valara stared at him. Her frozen eyes were wide and uncertain. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because someone should have told you a long time ago. You are not just a princess. You are not just a function. You are a person who deserves to be seen." He reached out and took her hand. It was cold, like everything about the Corinth. But when his fingers wrapped around hers, she did not pull away. They stood like that for a long time, two lonely people holding hands under a sky full of stars. Neither of them said anything. They did not need to. Something had started between them, something that would change both of their lives forever. The transport ship was fast and clean. Daniel felt out of place the moment he stepped inside. Everything was white and polished. The seats were soft. The air smelled like flowers instead of engine grease. A young woman in a diplomatic uniform met him at the door. Her name was Rachel, and she spent the entire journey teaching Daniel everything he needed to know. He learned 14 phrases in the Corinth language. Simple things like, "I am honored," and "the princess speaks for us both." He practiced saying them until his mouth hurt. He learned how to walk. The Corinth moved slowly and with purpose. Running or quick movements were considered rude. Daniel had to force himself to slow down. He learned how to stand. Hands at his sides. Chin slightly down. Eyes looking forward but not directly at anyone important. He learned how to sit. Straight back. Feet flat on the floor. No fidgeting. Most importantly, he learned what not to do. No smiling. No touching anyone. No speaking unless spoken to. No opinions. No personality. No being human. "You are a symbol," Rachel told him. "Nothing more. The Corinth do not care who you are. They only care that you exist." "That is comforting," Daniel said. "It should be. The less they notice you, the safer you will be." The Concord Ring station appeared through the window. It was massive, a great wheel of metal and glass floating in space between 3 star systems. Neutral territory where enemies could meet without fighting. Daniel had seen many stations in his years of flying cargo. He had never seen anything like this. The Concorde ring was beautiful in a cold, perfect way. Like a diamond made of steel dot, they docked in a private bay reserved for diplomatic ships. Rachel led Daniel through a series of corridors until they reached a large room filled with people in uniforms. "This is where we prepare you," Rachel said. For the next 3 hours, Daniel was transformed. They cut his hair properly for the first time in years. They cleaned his skin with strange machines. They put him in Corinth formal clothes, which were heavy and dark, and covered him from neck to ankle. When he looked in the mirror, he did not recognize himself. He looked serious, important, like someone who belonged at a diplomatic summit. He did not feel that way. "The princes will meet you now," Rachel said. Daniel followed her through more corridors. Each one was fancier than the last. The walls changed from plain metal to carved stone to polished wood. The air got colder. Finally, they stopped at a large door guarded by 2 Corinth soldiers. The soldiers were 8 feet tall with blue skin and silver armor. They looked at Daniel like he was an insect. The doors opened. Daniel stepped inside. The room was huge and mostly empty. White walls, high ceiling, cold light from windows that showed the stars outside. In the center of the room stood a single figure, Princess Valara of the Corinth Empire. Daniel had seen pictures of Corinth before. He knew they were tall and blue-skinned. He knew they were considered beautiful by galactic standards. But pictures did not prepare him for the real thing. Valara was 7 feet tall. Her skin was the color of a winter sky, pale blue with hints of silver. Her eyes were like frozen starlight, white with tiny points of light that moved like distant stars. Her hair was long and dark, almost black, falling past her shoulders like a waterfall of night. She wore a dress that seemed to be made of liquid silver. It moved when she breathed, flowing like water around her body. On her head sat a small crown of white crystal. She was the most beautiful thing Daniel had ever seen. She was also the coldest. Valara looked at him. Her eyes moved up and down, studying him the way someone might study a piece of furniture they were thinking about buying. There was no warmth in her gaze, no curiosity, just assessment. "You are the human," she said. Her voice was clear and sharp, like ice breaking. "Yes," Daniel said. He remembered his training and added one of his phrases. "I am honored to serve." Valara did not respond to this. She turned to Rachel. "He is acceptable," the princess said. "He will do." That was it. No introduction. No welcome. Daniel had just been approved like a chair that matched the room. "The first meeting is in 2 hours," Rachel told him. "Stay close to the princess. Do not speak. Do not move unless necessary." Daniel nodded. Rachel left. The guards left. Suddenly, he was alone with Valara. She did not look at him again. She walked to the window and stood there, staring out at the stars. Daniel stood where he was, unsure what to do. The silence stretched on. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. Finally, Valara spoke without turning around. "Do you understand what you are?" "I am told I am a symbol," Daniel said carefully. "You are less than that. You are a legal requirement, a formality. Your presence allows me to speak at the summit. Your existence has no other purpose. I understand. Do you?" She turned to face him. Her frozen eyes studied him again. "Humans think they understand the Corinth. They do not. My people have ruled 12 systems for 10,000 years. We have seen species rise and fall like waves on a beach. Humans are young, brief. You will be forgotten in a few centuries." Daniel did not know what to say, so he said nothing. "Good," Valara said. "You learn quickly. Perhaps you will not be completely useless." The summit began. Daniel sat next to Valara at a long table in a great hall. Around them sat representatives from a dozen species. Humans, Vellani with their green skin and 4 arms, merchant guilds from the core systems, military commanders, diplomats, politicians. Everyone was talking, but Daniel could not follow most of it. The discussions were about trade routes and border agreements and military positions. Complex things that made his head hurt. He did what he was told. He sat still. He kept his eyes forward. He did not smile. He did not speak, but he watched. He watched Velara as she spoke to the other delegates. Her voice was calm and strong. She argued for the trade agreement with perfect logic. She answered questions without hesitation. She was smart in a way that made everyone else in the room look slow. But Daniel noticed something else too. He noticed the way her hands trembled slightly under the table, hidden from everyone but him. He noticed the way her jaw tightened when certain Corinth nobles spoke. He noticed the small pauses before she answered certain questions, as if she was choosing her words very carefully. The princess was not as calm as she appeared. She was afraid of something. On the 3rd night, Daniel found out what dot he was sleeping in a small room next to Velara's chambers. Not because he wanted to, but because protocol demanded the bonded partner stay close. He was dreaming about his old ship when a sound woke him up. A crash. A scream. Daniel was on his feet before he was fully awake. His military training took over. He grabbed the small knife he always kept hidden in his boot and ran toward the sound. The door to Velara's chamber was broken open. Inside, 3 figures in black were fighting with the princess's guards. 2 guards were already down. The 3rd was struggling against 2 attackers. The 3rd assassin was moving toward Velara. Daniel did not think. He moved. Human reflexes were faster than Corinth reflexes. This was a known fact, something about evolution and predator responses on Earth. Daniel crossed the room in 3 steps and hit the assassin from behind. The fight was ugly and fast. The assassin was strong, but Daniel had learned to fight in places where there were no rules. He used his knife. He used his elbows. He used his teeth when he had to. When it was over, 2 assassins were dead, and 1 was unconscious. Daniel stood in the middle of the room, breathing hard, covered in blood that was not his own. The princess stared at him from across the room. Her frozen eyes were wide. For the first time since he had met her, she looked surprised. More guards burst into the room. They shouted orders and surrounded the surviving assassin. Someone called for medical help, but Velara did not look at any of them. She looked only at Daniel. "You saved me," she said quietly. Her voice was different now, softer, almost human. Daniel wiped blood from his face. His hands were shaking with leftover energy from the fight. "It was instinct," he said. Velara kept staring at him, like she was seeing him for the first time. "You are not what I expected," she said. Neither of them knew it yet, but everything had just changed. The final day of the summit arrived. Daniel woke up early and lay in his bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling. His payment was waiting in a secure account. His old ship was docked at Starbase Meridian, ready to take him back to his old life. In a few hours, everything would be over. He should have been happy. The trade agreement had been signed. Humans in Corinth would have peace for another generation. He had done his job. He had been furniture, just like Lisa asked, but he did not feel happy. He felt empty. He got dressed in his Corinth formal clothes for the last time. He looked at himself in the mirror. The man looking back at him seemed different than the cargo pilot who had agreed to this job 2 weeks ago. Something had changed. He knew what it was. He just did not want to admit it. The closing ceremony was held in the Great Hall. Every delegate was there. Every species was represented. Velara sat at the head of the Corinth table, beautiful and cold in her silver dress. Daniel sat beside her, silent and still, playing his role one last time. The speeches were long. Leaders talked about cooperation and progress and the future. They shook hands and made promises. Everyone smiled and pretended they were all friends now. Daniel barely heard any of it. He was thinking about what came next. In an hour, he would stand up and walk away. He would take his money and buy a new ship. He would fly back to the Outer Rim and spend the rest of his life moving cargo from one place to another, alone, silent, free. It sounded terrible. The ceremony ended. The delegates rose from their seats. People began to move toward the exits, talking and laughing. The summit was officially over. Daniel looked at Velara. She was staring straight ahead, her face perfectly composed. She did not look at him. This was it. This was goodbye. Daniel stood up. His legs felt heavy. He took a breath and prepared to walk away from the only person who had made him feel alive in years. He took one step toward the exit. Then he felt her hand close around his. He stopped. His heart was beating fast. He turned slowly and looked back at her. Velara was standing now. Her frozen eyes were wide and desperate. Her hand gripped his tightly, like she was afraid he would disappear if she let go. "Don't go," she said. Her voice was quiet, but in the sudden silence of the great hall, everyone heard it. Every delegate, every noble, every guard and diplomat and servant. The princess of the Corinth Empire was holding the hand of a human cargo pilot. She was asking him to stay. The whispers started immediately. Daniel could feel hundreds of eyes turning toward them. He heard gasps of shock. He saw Corinth nobles staring with open mouths. Commander Zeth stepped forward. His face was twisted with anger. "Princess Velara," he said loudly, "this is improper. Release the human immediately." Velara did not release him. Her grip tightened. "No," she said. "You shame yourself. You shame your father. You shame the entire empire by touching this creature. He is not a creature. His name is Daniel Cole, and he saved my life. That does not give you the right to make a spectacle. Step away from him now." The whole room was watching. Daniel could see the human delegates looking confused and worried. He could see the other Corinth nobles gathering behind Zeth, forming a wall of disapproval. "Velara," Daniel said quietly, "you do not have to do this. I can leave. We can pretend this never happened." She turned to look at him. Her eyes were fierce now, not frozen. "I have been pretending my whole life," she said. "I am tired of pretending." She turned back to face the crowd. When she spoke, her voice was strong and clear. "I invoke the right of Kethvaran." The room went completely silent. Even Zeth stopped in his tracks. Daniel did not know what Kethvaran meant, but from the reaction, it was something important. Ambassador Kevin Hart, the human diplomat, moved through the crowd toward Daniel. "What is Kethvaran?" Daniel whispered. "It is an ancient Corinth tradition," Kevin replied. "When a royal's life is saved, they can claim a life-debt bond with their savior. It is unbreakable. It means the savior cannot be forced to leave the royal side." "She is making me her bonded partner? For real?" "Not exactly. It is more like she is claiming you. You become her responsibility and her right. No one can take you from her." Commander Zeth finally found his voice. "Kethvaran has not been invoked in 200 years. It is meant for Corinth warriors who save royal lives in battle, not for human servants." "The law does not specify species," Velara replied calmly. "Daniel Cole saved my life when assassins came for me. He fought and killed with no weapon but his hands. By the standards of Kethvaran, he has earned the right to stand beside me. This is politics. This is a manipulation. This is my choice." Velara lifted her chin. "For the first time in my life, I am making a choice that is mine alone. You can accept it or you can challenge it, but you cannot stop it." Zeth's hands clenched into fists. Daniel could see him calculating, trying to find a way around the law. But there was none. "Your father will hear of this," Zeth said finally. "Emperor Malvois will not allow this insult to stand. Then let him come and tell me himself." Zeth stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away, his guards following behind him. The great hall slowly emptied. Delegates whispered to each other as they left. Everyone was talking about what they had just seen. The princess of the Corinth Empire had claimed a human as her own. Finally, only Daniel and Villara remained, still holding hands in the middle of the empty room. "You did not have to do that," Daniel said. "Yes, I did. Your people will hate you for this. Your father will be furious. Probably. Your whole life is going to be harder because of me." Villara turned to face him fully. She lifted her free hand and touched his face. Her fingers were cold, but the gesture was gentle. "When those assassins came for me, you did not hesitate. You ran toward danger to save someone you barely knew, someone who had treated you like furniture." Her voice softened. "Why?" Daniel thought about the question. He thought about all the reasons he could give, all the logical explanations. But in the end, there was only one answer that mattered. "Because I could not imagine a world without you in it," he said. Villara smiled. It was the first real smile he had ever seen on her face. It transformed her from a cold, perfect princess into something warm and alive. "I have never had someone fight for me before," she said. "I have never had someone choose me just because they wanted to. Not for power, not for politics, just for me. Well, you have someone now, I know." She squeezed his hand. "That is why I could not let you go." They stood together in the empty hall. Two people from different worlds who had found each other against all odds. Outside, the stars shone bright and cold. Inside, something warm was growing. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. "Now we go to the Corinth homeworld. You will meet my father. He will probably threaten to kill you. That sounds fun. You will have to prove yourself to the entire empire. There will be challenges and tests and enemies at every turn. I have faced worse. Have you?" Villara raised an eyebrow. "No," Daniel admitted. "But I have something I did not have before." "What is that?" "A reason to fight." Villara leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. It was a Corinth gesture of deep connection, Daniel realized. Something she had probably never done with anyone before. "Then fight well, Daniel Cole," she whispered, "because I am not letting you go." The Corinth homeworld was called Valith Prime. It was a cold planet of silver cities and frozen seas. Beautiful in a way that made Daniel's chest hurt. The ship carrying them descended through clouds of ice crystals. Daniel stood at the window, watching the landscape grow larger. Villara stood beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "Are you afraid?" she asked. "Yes," he admitted. "Good. Fear will keep you sharp." The throne room of Emperor Malvois was the largest space Daniel had ever seen. The ceiling vanished into darkness above. The walls were carved with images of Corinth history, 10,000 years of war and conquest and glory. At the far end sat a throne of black stone, and on that throne sat the emperor himself. Malvois was old, even by Corinth standards. His blue skin had faded to a pale gray. His eyes were white and milky, but somehow still sharp. He radiated power like a star radiating light. The court was packed with nobles. They lined the walls in their finest clothes, watching with hungry eyes. Daniel recognized Commander Zeth near the front, his face twisted with satisfaction. Villara walked toward the throne with her head held high. Daniel walked beside her, trying to look calm even though his heart was racing. They stopped at the base of the steps. Villara bowed. Daniel copied the movement, going deeper than she did. He had learned that much protocol. "Daughter, the Emperor said. His voice was like thunder rolling across mountains. You have caused me great trouble. I have exercised my right under Corinth law, Father. You have made a fool of yourself in front of the galaxy. You have claimed a human as your bonded. A human? The Emperor leaned forward. Do you know what the other noble houses are saying? Do you know how many alliances we have lost because of your actions? I know. And you do not care? Velara was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady. I care about the Empire. I have served the Empire my entire life. Every word I have spoken, every decision I have made, has been for the good of our people. I have never asked for anything for myself. I have never complained. I have never shown weakness. She paused. But I am not a machine, Father. I am a person. And for the first time in my life, I have found someone who sees me as a person instead of a tool. I will not give that up. Not for politics. Not for alliances. Not even for you. The throne room went silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The Emperor stared at his daughter for a long time. His milky eyes gave nothing away. Then he turned to Daniel. Step forward, human. Daniel walked up the steps until he stood directly in front of the throne. This close, he could see every line on the Emperor's ancient face. He could feel the weight of those eyes pressing down on him. My daughter believes you are worth the destruction of her political future, Malloy said. Explain to me why she is not simply insane. Daniel had been thinking about this moment for the entire journey. He had prepared speeches in his head, arguments about honor and courage and the value of human qualities. But standing here now, looking into the eyes of a being who had ruled 12 star systems for 100 years, all those words seemed small dots, so he spoke simply. I am a cargo pilot from a planet called Earth, he said. I fly a broken ship on the outer rim. I have no power, no money, no family. I am nothing compared to your empire. Maldois waited. I took this job because I was paid to take it. I agreed to pretend to be your daughter's partner because I needed the money. I expected to be ignored. I expected to be treated like furniture. And that is exactly what happened. He took a breath. But then assassins came. And when I saw them moving toward Velara, I did not think about money. I did not think about protocol. I did not think about survival. I just moved. Because in that moment, protecting her was the only thing that mattered. Daniel looked directly at the Emperor. Humans are small. We are weak. We live short lives and we make stupid mistakes. But we understand something that I think the Corinth have forgotten. And what is that? Connection. Real connection. The kind that does not come from politics or strategy. The kind that happens when two people choose each other, not because they have to, but because they want to. He gestured toward Velara. Your daughter has never been allowed to choose anything. Her whole life has been decided by others. Her bonds, her duties, her future, all chosen for her. When she grabbed my hand and asked me to stay, that was the first real choice she has ever made. Daniel straightened his shoulders. I cannot offer your empire anything useful. I am not a warrior or a diplomat or a noble. But I can offer your daughter something she has never had before. Someone who chooses her. Someone who will fight for her. Someone who will stay, not because law demands it, but because leaving would be impossible. He fell silent. The throne room remained quiet. Emperor Malus stared at him for what felt like hours. Daniel felt sweat running down his back, but he did not look away. Finally, the Emperor turned to look at Velara. Something passed between them, some silent communication that Daniel could not read. Daughter, Maldoy said, is this truly what you want? Yes, Father. You understand what you are giving up? The alliances, the political marriages, the path to power that was open to you? I understand. And you still choose this human? Velara walked up the steps and stood beside Daniel. She took his hand in hers. "I still choose him." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. The whole court held its breath. Then Maldois did something unexpected. He laughed. It was not a cruel laugh or a mocking laugh. It was the laugh of an old man who had just seen something that surprised him. 10,000 years, he said. 10,000 years of current history. And I never thought I would see a human teach my people something about courage. He stood from his throne. Even old and faded, he was still taller than anyone else in the room. "The Kethvaran bond will stand," he announced. His voice echoed through the hall. "The human Daniel Cole is bound to Princess Velara by ancient law. He will serve as a liaison between our peoples, a bridge between humans and Corinth." Commander Zeth stepped forward. "My Emperor, you cannot be serious. This human is nothing. He has no qualifications. He has no worth." "He has the worth my daughter gives him," Maldois replied. "And that is enough." He looked at Zeth with cold eyes. "Do you challenge my judgment, Commander?" Zeth went pale. "No, my Emperor. Then this discussion is over." The court began to disperse. Nobles filed out, whispering among themselves. Some looked angry. Some looked confused. A few looked almost impressed. Velara squeezed Daniel's hand. "That went better than expected," she said quietly. "Your father laughed at me. That is good. He only kills people he is bored by." They walked out of the throne room together. The corridors of the palace stretched ahead of them, cold and silver and full of enemies. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. "Now we work. You will learn Corinth customs. You will train with our warriors. You will prove yourself to every noble who doubts you. It will be hard. I expected that. And there will be people who try to kill you. Probably many people. I expected that too." Velara stopped and turned to face him. Her frozen eyes were softer now, warmer somehow. "Why are you not running away?" she asked. "You could still leave. My father would not stop you now that the bond is official." Daniel thought about his old ship, waiting somewhere far away. He thought about the empty cargo runs and the silent nights in deep space. He thought about the life he had been living before he met her, if you could even call it a life. "I spent 6 years running away," he said. "I told myself I liked being alone. I told myself I did not need anyone. But the truth is, I was just scared. Scared of caring about something. Scared of losing something." He took both her hands in his. "I am still scared. But I would rather be scared with you than safe without you." Velara smiled. That real smile, the one that made her look alive. "You are strange, Daniel Cole. You are a stranger. You are an alien princess who fell for a cargo pilot. I did not fall for you. I chose you. There is a difference. What is the difference? Falling is an accident. Choosing is strength." Daniel smiled back at her. It was the first real smile he'd worn in years. "Then I choose you too, Velara of the Corinth. Every day. For as long as I live." They walked together through the silver corridors of the palace. Two people from different worlds who had found each other against all odds. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges and enemies and dangers they could not predict, but they would face them together. And sometimes, in a galaxy full of empires and politics and ancient traditions, that was enough.